Hello and thanks for joining me for this little mini-series from Curious Turtle called Achieving the Film Look. I'm Ben Brownie, and over the course of 5 short exercises, what I'm going to be doing is looking at some various properties that go towards achieving the film look. And we'll be looking at how we can start to put together these ideas in After Effects using both the built-in effects that we have and Curious Turtle's own film wash colour effects. So in each of the exercises, what I'm going to be doing is sharing some core information about how these particular properties go to affect the look of your project, a few cool little tips and tricks about how we can start to tap into that, and then we'll take a look at how the film wash can help make life easier for you. So let's take a look at After Effects now. In this first exercise, we're going to be looking at the importance of contrast and gamma and how that can help to shape the entire mood of your piece. So we're starting with a well-balanced shot here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an adjustment layer because I'm going to put all of my effects onto adjustment layers because it gives me a lot more flexibility that way. And I'm going to look for a high contrast look here. And I'm going to go up to my effects, come to color correction and choose curves. Now an important thing about your look is how it handles that roll off from the shadows into the absolute black level, and on the other side how it handles the highlights rolling off into the whites. And this is going to be a big thing in how we can start to create our look. So just to give you a quick example of a high contrast look, this is just a very standard little S-curve. That if you've used curves before, you'll have seen that. So what we're doing is we're just boosting up the highlights and taking down the shadows a little bit there. And that just makes the image a little bit crunchier without affecting the ultimate black and white points because they're still stuck there. So the black is still black and the white is still white. So one of the things that I like to do here is I like to play around with how we get a nice roll off in the shadows here. So instead of just bringing this down and affecting a whole huge range here, what we can do is we can start to play around just with the shadows. So by locking a particular area, just by adding another point there, we can then limit the corrections that we're making to a specific area. And let's bring the skin up a little bit here. And likewise on the roll off onto the whites, we'll just bring that up a little bit there. So I'm locking off areas by adding another point and then really focusing on specific ranges of colour. So we've got a nice little high contrast look here. One of the things that RGB curves will also do is as we start to increase the contrast in the luminance in the black and white there, we'll also get a bit more saturation coming into our image as well. And we can avoid this in After Effects by doing a couple of things. The first thing is changing the blend mode down here to Luminosity. So now all we're doing is affecting the luminance values without affecting the color values. This is looks quite nice on this particular image, but you can find that this can sometimes leave you with a lack of color coming in because it's a sort of unnatural lack of color. So if we move over to our next shot here, and we'll move this back to normal, take a screenshot of this, and we'll look at our before and after. That extra punch of contrast and saturation really helps just to sell this shot over there. And the same here in bright sunshine. This has probably gone a little bit far because we're starting to blow out some of the whites here. But in bright sunshine or warm sunny days where you want to keep that sort of warmth, then a nice little high contrast look is good for you here. Now on the other side of things, if I come up here and make a new adjustment layer, is to go the opposite way, and instead of doing a high contrast here, we're going to do a more low contrast sort of look. So if I come to my effects, come to color correction and curves again, Now, instead of adding contrast with the S-curve going sort of this way, what I can do if I push the S-curve the other way is to sort of take contrast away. So by lifting the black levels here, I've actually reduced some of the contrast we've got, and we can take this quite far. So if I were to take the black level up just a little bit here, take this up here, what I've done is make this slightly higher key by taking out some of the shadows here. And this doesn't have to just stay with the RGB either. We can come in and we can go into the individual color channels here. Maybe we'll get a little bit of a sort of cross-process look just by reducing contrast in the individual color channels. So we're going for a softer look. This low contrast is probably a direction that we might want to look into. And here's another reason why I like having my color correction on adjustment layers. If I hit T to bring up the opacity, I can just mix this back as I want to without having to go in, because I like the direction that this is going in, but it might be a little bit too harsh. I can just mix it back just a little bit. Now you might find if we go over to our summer shot here, you might find that this low contrast lacks the punch. So when you're dealing with sort of bright colors here and you're not going for a kind of vintage look, then maybe the low contrast isn't the direction for you. But you can find it works out quite nicely in a variety of different areas. So let's take a quick look at some of the film wash looks that we have available to us now. So I'm going to add another adjustment layer here. And if we come over to the effects and presets, in the animation presets here, if you purchased and installed film wash, you'll have them all here. We'll take a look at some of the stuff in volume 3 to begin with, and we'll take a look at some of the contrasting yellows here. We'll start with a high contrast one. So I've got my warm summer. I can just push on there, so just double click and that goes on there. Now all of these are mixed quite hard, so you can easily just come into the opacity as we did before, use that little trick just to mix it back. And we'll take a look. It's got a nice warm punch to it. So I'll rename this Warm Summer. And I'll take a little snapshot. I'll add another adjustment layer here, and we'll choose a low contrast one, the one above it, Soft Age Sun. You can see this is much softer than the one before. And again, it's mixed quite hard, so we can easily pull it back. And let's compare and contrast with the high contrast and the low contrast. We'll take that even further. High contrast and low contrast. And you can see the Soft Age Sun here kind of gives a little vintage feel across our clips. So when we're creating our look, the first thing we're going to look at is contrast and gamma. Let's move on now and take a look at colour.